Another elite quarterback is visiting LSU. We've got the latest. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe as always. One of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. So Tigers are still searching for their quarterback for 2026, and it could very well be a former 5-star blue chip elite prospect that everybody in the world wanted, but landed at Southern Cal and just finished his first year with the Trojans, and a day ago entered the transfer portal. A little more than 24 hours after his name hit the portal, Husan Longstreet is in Baton Rouge. We were able to break it over at LouisianaSports.net, the first to report that Longstreet was, in fact, visiting LSU here on Saturday. So if you're not familiar with Husan Longstreet, let me give you a little bit of his bio. I'll tell you what I know up to this point. Everyone's asking, does that mean the Sam Leavitt deal is dead? I'll get to that as well in just a quick second. But let me start with who Husan Longstreet is, okay? So Longstreet, out of Corona, California, Centennial High School, actually spent time early in his life in Texas and in Tennessee before his family moved to California. But Longstreet was a 5-star quarterback, a consensus 5-star, on 3 ESPN in the composite, which combines all the different site rankings. He was a 5-star, number 21 overall prospect in the country for the class of 2025, the number 4 quarterback in the country, and the number 2 player in the state of California. He is 6'1", 195. That was how they listed him at, what's interesting, his recruiting profile was 6'1", 195. His Southern Cal profile has him at 6 foot, 200. So he's lost an inch, but gained 5 pounds. So just figure he's around 6 foot, 200 pounds. And he had offers from darn near everybody in the country. Okay. He was really in Texas A&M was really in the mix. Again, as I told you, he was a kid who was from Texas originally. Auburn, Michigan. Look at the offers that he had. Miami, Ole Miss, more on that in just a second. Oregon, Missouri, Florida State, Washington, SMU, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Minnesota, Pitt, BYU, Cal, Boston College, everybody. Like everybody in the country offered this kid, okay? He's a 5-star quarterback. Everybody wanted him. It's notable that Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss were the primary recruiters from Ole Miss, and Husan Longstreet did, in fact, make a visit to Ole Miss, and he was one of their finalists. Ole Miss, I should say, was one of his finalists whenever ultimately he picked Southern Cal and stayed at USC. Now, Husan Longstreet finished up his freshman year at USC, and this season with the Trojans saw limited playing time. He saw action in 4 games, so he was able to maintain the redshirt year. So wherever he goes next, he still has 4 years of eligibility remaining. He played against Missouri State, Georgia Southern, Illinois, and Notre Dame. The Illinois-Notre Dame games were on the road. He just had a rushing attempt in each of those games. Very dynamic runner. Again, we'll get to that in a second. But the first action he saw was in the opener against Missouri State. So Southern Cal was blowing the doors off of Missouri State, so we got in late. He ends up throwing. He was 9 of 9 passing for 69 yards and a touchdown, ran 8 times for 54 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. He also saw time against Georgia Southern, 4 of 6 passing for 34 yards, ran 1 time for 6 yards. The rest of the season, again, he had the 1 carry against Illinois for 16 yards. He ran 1 time against Notre Dame for no yards. So in his rookie season there at Southern Cal, when you look at Husan Longstreet, passing 103 yards and a touchdown, rushing 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. But this is a true dual threat guy in the mold of what Charlie Weis and Lane Kiffin want in their offense. What I can tell you is that Husan Longstreet visiting Baton Rouge on Saturday, flew here, was at football ops, and then went to dinner at Stabs. If you're not familiar, Stabs is a great restaurant in Baton Rouge. There's a group of restaurants that are sort of the premier restaurants in Baton Rouge that are the ones that are the feeders for the for these types of visits, right? We've talked about Supper Club, of course, which is a great partner of ours. Rufino's, great one. Stabs, the whole crew over at Stabs does an awesome job as well, right there on Perkins Road. I'm sorry, on Jefferson Highway near corporate. Charlie Weis, Dane Stevens, the particulars were there. Interesting. I know people have asked this, but Lane Kiffin hasn't really gone to these recruiting dinners, and I just don't know that that's necessarily his MO. He lets the position coaches do, like, again, we're all learning. Like, I'm learning what it's like to cover Lane Kiffin. And some coaches are very out front, and some coaches are the ones that are going to be great in the living room with the mom and the dad recruiting and want to be personable. Lane strikes me as the guy, as we're learning more, that he delegates to his position coaches. The position coaches are the ones that are going to be spending all the time with these guys. It's not so much Lane and the head coach. So in this case, Charlie Weis, the offensive coordinator, Dane Stevens, the quarterback's coach, they're the ones that went to dinner with Husan Longstreet at Stabs on Saturday. Okay, cool. Now, the other part that people have asked a bunch about is, does this mean the Sam Leavitt piece is done? Like, is Leavitt no longer a consideration for LSU? I can tell you definitively, and again, I was the first one to get the news about Longstreet making the visit. My first question obviously was, does this mean Sam Leavitt to LSU is done? And I was told definitively no. So let me walk you through the calendar again of this week. I'll do this very quickly as a Cliff's Notes version for those, if you're an everydayer, you've been with us on all this, but for those who maybe are just jumping aboard, let me catch you up, okay? So over the weekend, last weekend, Brendan Sorsby visited LSU, the Cincinnati transfer. As we now know, it feels like and sounds like he actually had a deal in place with Texas Tech when he left there. Still took the visit to LSU. LSU put on a show, but he ultimately commits and signs with Texas Tech. Fine. He signs with Texas Tech. Then Sam Leavitt gets to Baton Rouge on Monday. Leavitt's visit goes great from Monday into Tuesday. Tuesday evening is when we learn that Damon Williams from Washington is entering the transfer portal. Things unravel for Sam Leavitt at that point. I do believe firmly that Leavitt was ready to commit. Earlier Tuesday, LSU was pushing for Leavitt's commitment. When Damon Williams entered the portal, LSU looked at the shiny new object, and that upset Sam Leavitt. So he left, went to Knoxville on Wednesday to the University of Tennessee. So he goes to Tennessee on Wednesday. He's there Wednesday, Thursday. LSU still without a quarterback. On Friday, when Leavitt is wrapping up his visit at Tennessee to go to Miami next, Lane Kiffin hops on a plane to Knoxville to go visit Sam Leavitt in Knoxville. Again, it's another story that we were able to break at LouisianaSports.net. Kiffin put on social media that he was in Knoxville, but a lot of people wondered if it were old pictures, if it was a burner account, if he was trolling. Was able to confirm Lane Kiffin did go Friday to Knoxville to see Sam Leavitt. We have a previous episode about that. You can check it out. Well, on Friday also is when Husan Longstreet put his name in the portal. LSU clearly reached out, scheduled a visit. Because of the relationship with Kiffin and Weis, Longstreet's first visit is to Baton Rouge. So Longstreet flew into Baton Rouge on Saturday, went through the visit at football ops Saturday afternoon, evening, went to dinner Saturday night over at Stabs. And now we'll see how the rest of this visit goes. Again, the next obvious question that people have asked is, does that mean the Sam Leavitt piece is dead? What I was told definitively is no. This is a situation where you are covering all of your bases. Maybe they do land Sam Leavitt. Maybe Leavitt takes the visit to Miami, loves it, and commits there. Well, if that's the case, you have to have another option. Maybe Leavitt takes the visit to Miami and is convinced that LSU is actually the best spot for him, and he ends up being LSU's quarterback. I've told you plenty about the Leavitt situation, how that's unfolded. The real concern is over the Liz Frank injury and his recovery. It's a big financial investment for a player who has an uncertain injury situation right now. If Leavitt is healthy, I don't think there's any doubt he's the guy. He's the number one quarterback in the portal. He's a playoff quarterback already at Arizona State. He's an experienced guy. He's got 2 years of eligibility. Leavitt checks all the boxes. He would be the guy if he's healthy, which is not a definitive answer right now. So right now, the question is, do you get Leavitt? If so, great. If you don't get Leavitt, what do you do? A lot of people have asked about Deuce Knight from Auburn. My understanding is that Ole Miss is making a strong push for Deuce Knight. As a matter of fact, all the rumors about DJ Lagway, who's committed to Baylor, possibly taking a visit to Ole Miss, I think that is just saber rattling to try to engage Deuce Knight to commit to Ole Miss so as not to risk losing, to put the pressure on the player to not lose the bird in hand. I think Deuce Knight's going to end up at Ole Miss. Lagway, I think, is going to end up at Baylor. You can start to see that game of musical chairs we've talked about. Like the music stops, everybody gets a seat. Well, there's fewer seats remaining now. So who you going to get? And there's few options out there. And Husan Longstreet would be a really good option for LSU. A high ceiling guy, only with 15 passing attempts this season, but a high ceiling guy, a former 5-star with a relationship with Kiffin and Weiss, who's got obviously 4 years of eligibility remaining. He's not going to necessarily be at his peak in 2026 as a redshirt freshman, but that's probably the skill set you need from a guy if you're not able to land Sam Leavitt. So the Sam Leavitt deal is not dead, but Husan Longstreet is visiting LSU here on Saturday. As we hear more about the Longstreet visit, we'll certainly pass it along to you right here. Now, Longstreet wasn't the only LSU visit on Saturday. We'll tell you about the rest of what we know, who was here, what was significant, and who committed on Saturday. That's next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life, it doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rougiette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rougiette Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue, so it absorbs fast. You connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why more than 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rougiette.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. And here's what I love. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. Take a shot on the underdog if you feel an upset coming. Look, the national champion's coming. It's going to be Indiana against Miami. And so here's a great opportunity. Do you like the Hoosiers laying the 8? Do you think Miami could pull the upset or keep it close? You can apply that profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. While Husan Longstreet, no doubt, is going to be the biggest story of Saturday, former 5-star quarterback visiting LSU, as everybody wants to know what is going on with LSU being able to attract a quarterback. There were a few other notables here for the Tigers. 2 more commitments. Well, I guess a third that became official. Let me start with the 2. Well, they're all 3 official, but let me start with the 2 that became new here on Saturday. Wide receiver Tyree Holloway, defensive back Braelin James have both been added to the LSU class. So Holloway is a receiver who just finished his junior season at West Florida, the University of West Florida. 34 catches, 661, and 8 touchdowns. So he is a burner. 6 foot tall, 180 pounds, but he can fly. He adds that element that we keep. Look, 34 catches, 8 of them for touchdowns. So he began his career at Division II, Chowan University, transferred to West Florida, had a big season. He's the 8th wide receiver that LSU has added now via the transfer portal. And a lot of people are looking, going, Matt, why are they adding so many receivers? Remember, you're losing so much of that group. The guys that are out of eligibility, Aaron Anderson, Barry Brown, Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton. Then the portal guys, Kyle Parker's in the portal. Teron Francis is in the portal. Jelani Jenkins, Jelani Watkins, Kylan Billiot. I mean, you're talking about nearly double-digit players that are out of that receiver room. So you had to go rebuild that room. So they've done it so far with guys who are immediate impact guys and guys who are maybe young veterans who can sit, wait, watch, provide depth, and be impact guys in 2027. Again, I've said it multiple times. The everydayers have heard me say this, but it is so clear talking to people around the program and then watching what they're doing that this staff, the way Lane Kiffin, Billy Glasscock, Austin Shelton, the associate GM, the way that they're building this is with guys in the portal that have multiple years of experience remaining. As a contrast to what Brian Kelly did a year ago. And I'm not saying good, bad, right, wrong. It's just different. Last year, you look at Jack Pyburn, Jamari Butler, Patrick Payton, Bernard Gooden, AJ Halsey, Bauer Sharp, Barry Brown. These were all 1-year guys via the portal. 1-year impact mercenaries. Lane Kiffin, Billy Glasscock are going with guys who have experience in college football with multiple years remaining. That's what they're going after here. So, Tyree Holloway is one. The other is a local guy in James. So Braelin James is from Madison Prep in Baton Rouge. Began his career at Prairie View A&M. Played at Southern this year. 6'3", 190. Played safety for the Jags this year, but could also play some corner. So again, another guy that they're adding on the defensive side of the ball with multiple years of experience and multiple years remaining as well. A project as they look at what skill set do we evaluate? Size, weight, speed, the physical ability. And then also on top of that, you look at all the things like how good of a teammate is he? How is he in the locker room? And can you build around those types of guys? That's what they're adding here in the transfer portal. The third prospect that is worth mentioning here that LSU officially added on Saturday is an offensive lineman. And it's an SEC offensive lineman, William Satterwhite. So William Satterwhite is a center from Tennessee, played in 3 games as a true freshman in 2024, so he redshirted. This year, as a redshirt freshman, 2025, played in 7 games as the backup center. He was a 4-star, a top 20 interior offensive lineman in the country when he signed, 6'3", 305. But again, he's played 2 years with 3 years of eligibility remaining. Now, the other part that I need to remind you is I was also told on Saturday that 2 LSU Tigers are nearing completion of their contracts to return. One is Trey'Dez Green. And I know Trey'Dez, it's already been announced, would return. The deal, as I understand it, as of Saturday, is not yet signed. But there's nothing that's thought to be an impediment to signing that deal. It's just redlining the contract. The other is Braelin Moore. Now, Braelin Moore has not yet announced his intention to return, but my understanding now that I was told last week and again on Saturday is that Braelin Moore and LSU are just finalizing the contract. He has already agreed to return for his senior season at LSU, which is a huge get because remember, we told you there were 5 players, really 6, that LSU prioritized. There was Harlem Berry and DJ Pickett, Trey'Dez Green, Whit Weeks, Braelin Moore, and then PJ Woodland. If Moore returns, that means all 6 are back. So I think the other thing that's important to remember with these contracts is it's not just the dollar amount. As I understand it, there's a lot of stipulations in these deals. Like, how professional contracts, there are these stipulations where someone can't go water skiing or snow skiing or jet skiing or things like that, because you don't want to have an injury. You don't want to invest money in a player and then have them injured doing something not related to the thing you're paying them to do. So those types of things are in these contracts. So the terms, the financial terms, as I understand it, are agreed upon. Now it's just redlining some details in the contract. So I do suspect very shortly we'll have official announcements from LSU about Trey'Dez Green and Braelin Moore returning. Now, the key for LSU, you've got Braelin Moore returning, you've got Weston Davis returning, and I'll save the conversation about Weston Davis. I know he didn't have a great year this year, but he was a top 50 overall prospect in the country, and they feel like they can develop him. Fine. Tigers have already added 3 offensive linemen, but it feels like what you've added are depth pieces, and they've got to go out there and add immediate starting caliber players. At the top of that list, most likely, is going to be your left tackle, because if Braelin Moore is your center and Weston Davis is your right tackle, then you've got to add left tackles or a left tackle. And I can tell you in the last 3 days, LSU has brought in 3 premier caliber athletes that could be plug and play left tackles. On Thursday, Alabama offensive lineman Micah DeBose was in Baton Rouge. On Friday, Florida State offensive lineman Mario Nash was in Baton Rouge for a visit. That's interesting also because earlier this week, Nash committed to Mississippi State, but that did not deter him from taking his visit to LSU. And then on Saturday, Kentucky offensive lineman Darren Stray visited LSU. Now, Darren Stray is interesting because this is a guy who played for Eric Wolford, who's LSU's new offensive line coach. So Stray is a big old dude, 6'7", 322. This is a guy who's played a lot of football throughout his, I should say, as a 6'7", 320-pounder, was a 4-star and a highly sought-after player during his time coming out of high school. Now, he was a 4-star recruit, the number 2 player in the state of Michigan, and this is a guy that you're looking at to say, okay, could Darren Stray come in and potentially be your starting left tackle? So a guy with familiarity from Eric Wolford, a big 4-star recruit, a gigantic human, a left tackle, and a guy that could very well be a plug-and-play starter. So LSU, as we have told you for weeks, on the offensive line, they were looking to add 3 starters and some depth. They were planning on bringing back Braelin Moore and a tackle, which you've seen now with Weston Davis, but they were adding 2 guards and a tackle. Starters. They've yet to do that. Now, I think Jaquan Sprinkle out of NC Central could be a plug-and-play guard for LSU this year. Could be. But you've also got guys like Solomon Thomas hanging around, some high-profile guys that are still within this program that have been around for a while that'll compete for jobs. But LSU is intending to bring in 2 starters at guard, 1 starter at tackle. In the last 3 days, 3 consecutive days, 3 consecutive elite-level SEC offensive talents at tackle coming in. See which one the Tigers can land. When they do, we'll tell you about it right here on Locked on LSU. Hey, one thing to remember, the coaches convention starts next week, so you will have a dead period of visits early next week, Monday till Wednesday, till it opens up again. The portal window closes on Friday. Now, remember, that's just the deadline for players to put their name in the portal. They don't necessarily have to commit by Friday. Players just have to put their name in the portal by Friday. So it'll be another wave sort of a free agency as we move into next week here in the transfer portal. Of course, we'll have it all covered right here on Locked on LSU. Hey, do us a favor, please, if you're on podcast, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU. It's your team every day.